fourth grade, Mr. Harris again with another video. Today we're going to be going over the structure of nonfiction texts. But quick reminder, it's Spirit Week, so remember that today is Miss You Monday. So you should look out for a video message that Miss Clark may have shared, or that you might be able to find on Class Dojo if we're able to share it. With us teachers letting you know how much we miss you guys through this quarantine, this time of social distancing. Tomorrow, you guys are going to have the opportunity to share your Hampton pride. So dress up in all your Hampton gear if you have it, and email pictures to uplifthampton@yahoo.com, uplifthampton@yahoo.com. And Ms. Clark will be able to share that with the rest of the school. But let's jump right into our video for today's structure of nonfiction text. So when we're looking at a text that is given to us, as always, we preview the text. We're looking at this text. It's called Wachita Breakdown. I'm seeing some subheadings. I'm seeing bolded words. I'm seeing Wachita Mountains in Texas. These sound like facts. These sound like things that are real. That is giving me the feeling that we're dealing with a nonfiction text. Nonfiction text. So let me go ahead and get out my writing tool. Let me go ahead and change the color. I'm going to change it to orange because it's Spirit Week. So my genre for this text is going to be nonfiction. Nonfiction. Move that down so that we can see. And we know if our genre is nonfiction, our thinking jobs are going to be topic and teach me. Topic and teach me. Topic is, again, what the author wants us to learn about. The author is going to tell us about one thing, and it's going to constantly be given to us throughout the text. The teach me is going to be what the author teaches us about the topic, the different points that he gives us, different details that he or she may give us throughout the text. So our topic for this text is going to be Wachita, the Wachita Breakdown. So we're going to write right here, topic, and we're going to put that right above our title. Because most times, our topic's in our title. So let's start reading. Very few Texans know that an invisible mountain range runs through the center of the state. Interesting. I've lived here 2 years and I don't know that. This ancient range called the Wachita Mountains lies deep beneath Texas soil. 300 million years ago, these mountains towered over the nearby plains and oceans. How did these mighty peaks get buried? What happens to ancient mountains? Read on to discover the two forces that slowly turn towering peaks into piles of rubble. So here, the author has taught me something new about my topic. And I'm going to write Wachita Mountains are invisible and beneath Texas. So we have our first subheading here, weathering. When I see a subheading, what the subheading lets me know is that everything underneath the subheading is going to pertain directly to that subheading. Okay? So as we read everything under weathering, we're going to be learning all about weathering. Weathering. The strongest and hardest of rock can be broken down, dissolved, and worn away. This process is called weathering. Imagine that a tiny plant begins to grow in the small crack of a boulder. As the roots grow deeper, the pressure against the rock begins to enlarge the crack. The crack grows and spreads. The roots grow even more deeply into the rock. Over time, the soft roots of a plant will break up the rock. Geologists call this organic weathering. In this way, tiny plants and giant trees all over the world are constantly changing the shape of mountains. Excuse me. So two things that I notice here while I'm reading. The word enlarge here is underlined. Okay? We know that if a word in the text is underlined, that there's probably going to be a question about it later on. So let's go ahead and define it. It says the pressure of the rock begins to enlarge the crack. The crack grows and spreads. So here we can use our context to tell us that the word enlarge means grow or spread. Next, we have a bolded word. The word that's bolded for us is organic weathering. Organic weathering is bolded because everything that is above it helps define it. So the process of roots or soft plants breaking up rock is organic weathering. So we can actually write that as our stop and jot here. Organic weathering is when living things break down a rock. Organic weathering is when living things break down a rock. Ice can cause mechanical weathering. When water freezes in cracks or a rock, the ice expands a little bit. This puts pressure on the rock, causing more cracking. The crack grows and more water gets into the rock. When the water freezes, it expands again. The rock continues to break apart. Wind and water also weather rocks mechanically. Think about standing in a windstorm. You would feel the sting as thousands of tiny grains of sand hit your skin. When strong winds blow these grains of sand over rock, little bits of the rock are chipped away. This is how giant mountains can be very slowly worn down by the abrasive action of the sand and tiny bits of rock. And then we have a diagram here. Water seeps into cracks and fractures in rock. When the water freezes, it expands about 9% in volume, which wedges apart the rock. With repeated freeze-thaw cycles, rock breaks into pieces. All right? So mechanical weathering is when rocks or water break down. When sand or wind or water break down a rock. Wind, water, or sand breaking down a rock is called mechanical weathering. So far, we've learned about two types of weathering. Let's tune in to see if we learn about any more. Some types of rocks react with rain or salt water to form a melt acid. In thousands of years, this acid can dissolve rocks like limestone. Because the rock experiences a chemical change, geologists call this chemical weathering. Another type of chemical weathering uses oxygen to weaken rocks. Rocks that are rich in iron sometimes oxidize. The oxygen in the air reacts with the iron mineral in the rock. This leaves the rock softer and more easily broken. So chemical weathering occurs when there is a chemical change in a rock. And now we've come to our second subheading, erosion. Erosion. Imagine that the noble Ouachita Mountains have been cracked by roots and ice, beaten by the wind, and dissolved by the rains and salty seas. The piles of rocky rubble now have to go somewhere. Erosion is the process by which rock is moved around by wind, water, ice, and gravity. It is easy to picture the wind carrying off small grains of sand. Rain also rushes down the mountains, forming fast rivers that carry larger bits of rock. Gravity, too, playing a part in moving rock down the mountains. The soil and rock is worn away from the base of the mountains, and the higher rocks eventually tumble down. Glaciers can also cause erosion. Glaciers are layers of heavy ice on top of mountains in very cold areas. Sometimes glaciers slide down the mountain, slowly pushing rocks and grinding away at the surface of the mountain itself. All of these forces work together over millions of years. They break the highest mountains into low piles of rubble and dust. So here we can write erosion is when rocks are moved by wind, water, ice, my comma, and gravity. Our last paragraph, the Ouachita Mountains did not disappear, of course. They were weathered and eroded over hundreds of millions of years. The dust and rocks washed down from higher mountains are actually covering the peaks of the Ouachita Range. Today, the Ouachita Range is buried under the sediments of the higher Rocky Mountains. Geologists continue to study the Ouachita Range by digging deep into the sediments in central Texas. So the mountains did not disappear, and scientists still study the OM. I'm just writing OM to abbreviate Ouachita Mountains. So let's get ready to move on to our questions that deal specifically with the structure of nonfiction. Our first question is question number 1. Excuse me. What effect do weathering and erosion have on mountains? A. Mountains broken and worn down, and the loose rock and soil wash away. B. The mountains are covered by rapidly rising oceans. C. Weather and erosion have no effect over very long periods of time. D. Mountains are built by the forces of the Earth's crust grinding and colliding. All right, so let's look at answer choice A. The mountains are broken and worn down, and the loose rock and soil washed away. Well, we know erosion is when rocks are moved by wind, water, ice, and gravity. And we know that weathering is when a rock is broken down. So we can put a question mark next to that for now. Only because it's our first answer and we haven't looked through all our answers. The mountains are covered by rapidly rising oceans. Is that true? We don't talk about that in this text, so we can put an X through that. And it doesn't deal with weathering and erosion. Weather and erosion have no effect over very long periods of time. That's not true. In our final paragraph, they tell us they were weathered and eroded over hundreds of millions of years. So there is an effect that happens over a very long period of time. Mountains are built by the forces of the Earth's crust grinding and colliding. The Earth's crust grinding and colliding has nothing to do with weathering and erosion. So we can cross that out as well. We can go back to our initial statement, which was choice A, and we can put a check mark over that because we know that that is our answer. Let me delete this mark. Let's just move it. Perfect. Our next question number 5. Which part of the article would a student read to learn about how bits of rocks are carried away by wind, water, and gravity? Is it A, watching a breakdown, B, weathering, C, erosion, D, the captions under the diagram? A, Wachita breakdown? No, that's the title of our entire article. So that's not a specific part. We'd have to read the entire article to find an answer. That doesn't sound like something we do as experienced readers. Is it B, weathering? Well, we know that weathering is how rocks are broken down. So we're not looking for that. We're looking for how rocks are moved. Is it C, erosion? Erosion is when rocks are moved by wind, water, ice, and gravity. We can put a question mark next to it for now because we haven't looked at all our answers. Is D, the captions under the diagram? The diagram gives us more examples of weathering, not erosion, or not how they're moved. So put an X there. We can delete our question mark because we know that our answer is actually going to be, answer choice C. And our last question number 7. Look at this sentence from paragraph 2. In this way, tiny plants and giant trees all over the world are constantly changing the shape of mountains. How could the reader verify whether this statement is factual? A, look in a science textbook for information on organic weathering. B, conduct an internet search of the words tiny plants and giant trees. C, read a poem about mountains and rocks. D, ask another student who has read this article. Which of these would be the best way to verify? So, A, look in a science textbook for information on organic weathering. Well, science books will provide us with facts, so we can put a question mark next to that for now. Conduct an internet search of the words tiny plants and giant trees. We can also put a question mark to that. Read a poem on mountains and rocks. Poems aren't always factual, so we can cross that out. Ask another student who has read the article. Not if we want to be 100% sure. We'd have a primary source in order to get our answer. If we go back to our original statements, answer choice B, conduct an internet search of the words tiny plants and giant trees. Searching up tiny plants and giant trees would not give us enough information or be broad enough. Be specific enough for us to get information about how plants and tiny plants and giant trees weather rocks. It gives us more information about tiny plants and giant trees than it would about actually how their relationship affects rocks. So we can cross that answer out. Look in the science textbook for information on organic weathering. That would ultimately be our correct answer. That's another primary source for us to find facts and details to support the sentence. All right, those are our 3 questions for today. Lastly, we have our attendance question for the day. And our attendance question for today is, name one thing you would like to do in the summer. Name one thing you would like to do in the summer. And that's it for today, boys and girls. Remember, if you want to participate in Spirit Week, take a picture of your favorite Hampton shirt, and email it to uplifthampton@yahoo.com. With your parents' permission, of course. Email uplifthampton@yahoo.com. Thank you and have a great day.